Hey, it's Drybear. Diablo 4 surprised us at Gamescom with an announcement for Season 2, so we're going to dive into that today. First, you should come hang out with me on my live stream. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/Drybear. If you don't come hang out with me in the community on Twitch, then this guy is going to visit you in your dreams tonight. Diablo 4 Season 2 is titled The Season of Blood and will have a vampire theme associated with it. And this comes at an interesting time because I think that there's definitely a lot of brand equity for Diablo 4. And what I mean by that, if you're not a marketing person, is that people recognize the name Diablo 4. They have either heard about it or they've played it themselves, or they're currently playing it now. It did have a very wide reach, which Rod Ferguson, the GM, did kind of stress on his talk for the window that they had during the Gamescom announcement portion. And a lot of people that are either playing the game or are returning players that are waiting for the game to get another update before they play, I think that this announcement for Season 2, I have a couple issues with just in general. Now, people know that I'm not a Diablo 4 hater. I do really like the game, and I will be playing for Season 2, and I'm very excited about the new content. But let's cover all of the updates that are coming for Season 2 in this little teaser that we got, and let's talk about the timing, positioning, and strategy of this announcement for Season 2. Firstly, they promise 5 new endgame bosses. Now, they say new and returning foes for additional endgame challenges. We've heard them hint at this before, that they might be bringing back bosses from the campaign, and the fact that they say new and returning means they might be keeping Uber Lilith. Maybe they'll bring back some campaign bosses, which some may argue is reuse of existing content, but I think is awesome, because there's a lot of very cool campaign encounters that I thought were really fun and engaging that you did once and then you never saw again. And you may, at this point, have even forgotten what all the story campaign bosses actually are. But new bosses is awesome, because when you compare Diablo 4 to games like Path of Exile that have many, many Uber bosses, endgame bosses to encounter, and things to chase after, they definitely needed more of these endgame bosses. So that's super cool. They also mentioned that there's going to be better target farming of uniques and uber uniques, which is an interesting thing to mention. They say uniques and uber uniques. They say better. One of the issues that I take with their announcement strategy here is that it's very loose and very wishy-washy and kind of vague. And I feel like right now, where the public perception is of Diablo 4, I feel like vague is not what Diablo 4 needs right now. They absolutely need substance, and I feel like this is a little too vague. So like better this, improved that, fixed this, without any details, I think doesn't really do a whole lot. I feel like this announcement very much targets the existing players that are still actively playing the game, and does not really do much to target the returning players that may be excited about new content and are kind of like waiting on new patches, new updates to go into the game. So without knowing what better target farming actually means, maybe they're doing, more Helltide. Maybe there's a new event inside of the Season of Blood that allow you to pick items. Is there going to be a vendor? We don't know, but they at least are going to be focusing on better target farming for uniques and uber uniques, not legendaries, but uniques in general. Renown rewards. This one is massive, and I feel like honestly, this is probably the biggest win for Season 2 for many players, because if you haven't been following what Diablo 4 has been doing since launch and going into Season 1, they originally planned for there to be a renown, which is a rep or character, like account progression progress that you have to complete in order to get your character stronger. There are alternate advancement options that make your character better in the season. And the original plan was for each server that you play on, you'd have to redo all renown rewards. So you'd have to recollect all of your waypoints. You'd have to go and collect all the over 100 altars of Lilith. You just have to go click on these statues. You have to re-reveal the map. You have to go and do all of the dungeons and all of that. So going into Season 1, when the reset first was planned, the community was up in arms because they didn't want to go and do all these chores again, since they'd already done it and they don't want to do it every single season. So Blizzard made some adjustments going into Season 1 based on that feedback, saying, okay, fine, you guys can keep your map discovery, your altars of Lilith. You guys will have that one-to-one, but you'll still have to do the other pieces. And there were actually a lot of people that were saying that they love the game, but playing seasonal with resets and having to do renown every time is too much, and they were kind of up on our arms on that. So it looks like the final note going into Season 2 is that all renown rewards will carry over when completed on any prior character beyond Altars of Lilith and map discovery. which includes potion charges, skill points, obol cap upgrades, and paragon, which means that you will get all of those permanent upgrades that are account wide for all characters on all servers when you have done it once on one character. Now, the fact that they mention includes potion charges, skill points, obol cap upgrades, and paragon points probably means that this won't be the actual codex of power from your dungeons, but at least for the renown rewards, you'll get the rewards, but the map progress of doing dungeons and things like that and doing strongholds won't be there. You just won't need them for the renown anymore. They'll just be there for XP or for unlocking the codex, which is the way that I take this, and honestly is perfectly fine. I think a lot of people, the issue that they took with renown was primarily just having to do it over and over and over again, with it being the exact same thing. And if they keep the fact that you can play in a 4-man party, split up and do dungeons, you can actually do the dungeon progress for codex pretty easily. The next update that they gave was around things that we knew were coming, actually. Status effects. They did mention that Season 2 was their target for updating elemental resistance systems. Now, we still don't know what this means, and I still think that the issue with resistance is the penalty that you receive from the difficulty settings. If you play on World Tier 1, the resistance system works pretty well, and then as you go up to World Tier 2, 3, and 4, it falls apart because the negative penalties are so massive that any gearing choice or paragon choice that you make on those systems are effectively meaningless because the penalty is so severe. So I'm curious what they're going to actually do with this. And again, it comes back to them being very vague on this when we don't really know exactly what they're doing, but we do know that they're doing it, and this kind of reaffirms that, which I suppose is nice. Vulnerable, overpower, and critical strike damage updates. They did say they want to move these over into different buckets, perhaps. Maybe not in the same, in a separate bucket, like vulnerable having its own bucket, critical strike damage having its own bucket, and they say overpower updates as well, so they probably want to make that scale better into late game. But again, without substance, we're not really sure exactly what these are, but at least reaffirms that that is coming. The next one, this one, I feel like, so I'm going to be a bit of a negative Nancy here, because I think that generally people that, like, these are good changes. So they're going to say gem and stash. Gems no longer take up inventory space. They said this was coming. I think the reason that this ended up getting delayed is because if you take gems out of your inventory, the current way that you socket gems and upgrade gems at the jeweler requires inventory, which means that they would have to make a whole new UI screen for pulling them out of your resources, your materials tab, and then using them for that, which is a whole, that's a whole dev line of them having to create a brand new screen and functionality and bug test it and all of that. So that makes sense to me. The one that I actually take issue with is this line right here. Stash can be searched and filtered. Generally, this is a great change, but I feel like trying to celebrate this, this should just come as part of the update. I feel like this shouldn't be a major selling point, because I feel like, I don't know, it's like if I had a car and then in 2023 and I decided that it was going to have 4 wheels instead of 3, I'd feel like I wouldn't try to put that on all my banners because all cars have 4 wheels if they're going to be a 4-wheel car. It just, like, things like this should exist in the game. They should have been there from the start. They're not that complicated, nor are they're not uncommon. In fact, most systems in most games and in most representations of a database that has things in it can be searched and filtered. So trying to make this as a bullet point that's like, hey, season 2 is going to be great. I feel like, you want to mention this, but having as a major point, personally for me, I feel like this should just come as an expected bonus, not as something that you try to market as why season 2 is so good, because stuff like this should exist regardless. Now, it did also come with a pretty cool trailer, and I am excited to see what this actually entails, right? If we know that season 2 is going to be similar to season 1 in that they added about 1 legendary new power for each class. They added about 1 unique for each class, and they added a bunch of new powers that you can gain with the season. I'm curious to see how this is actually going to play in. And honestly, I'm actually a little worried about some classes that had powers in season 1, Season of the Malignant, that made their class more enjoyable. things like the autocast Decrepify, or things that help your character feel better. I'm hoping some of those powers make their way into the base game to just make it feel better in general, but also just kind of having some improvements to the experience for all classes. I think also the way they did this trailer made people think that there was going to be a new class released, because it sounds like we need someone new, we need someone different, we need someone with their power. We're like Blood Knight, crazy vampire. No, they just were talking about you as in the royal you, like the main character here to help out in the journey. So that's what they have for season 2. I think it does look good. I think there's a lot of details to be hashed out. I do like the fact that they are addressing some of the quality of life things, but I feel like the timing for this announcement feels a little early, considering that the season 2 is coming in October. There's still a lot of questions around where Diablo 4 is now and what it needs to move forward. And I feel like this was kind of more fireworks and not as much substance as I would have liked. Like, I would have liked to have started with like a dev showcase with a PTR or PTB that people can test on, give feedback on, like, hey, here's the new system, resistances, here's the new system for critical strike, here's the new system for vulnerable, here's what we're thinking for the new reworks on this, and let players play on that and give feedback and talk about the system and really try to get it right and not be so... I feel like this is a little bit too much marketing and not enough substance or testing or player involved feedback to really kind of steer that where I think we'll run. But if you're already enjoying Diablo 4 and you're enjoying season 1, I think this is going to be a nice update for season 2, and I can't wait to see more, but let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.